For those who've already joined, thank you. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to let some people queue in, and then we'll get started. Again, for those who've joined, we're just waiting a few minutes so more people can queue up and get into the program, and then we'll get started. Well, good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Paul Green. Happy Women's History Month. I'm the president of GMS Canada. Just to take a moment to let you know a little bit about GMS Canada, we're part of GMS overall, wholly owned Canadian subsidiary, and it consists of several in-market strong company brands, starting with Slag on Vancouver Island and Home Lumber on Vancouver Island, BC Ceilings in British Columbia, and Shoemaker Drywall in British Columbia and all across our prairie provinces. When we come to Ontario, we have Watson Building Supplies, Blair Building Supplies. We also have Rigney Building Supplies in Kingston, Ontario. And then in our capital region, which is Gatineau, Quebec, and Ottawa, we have DL. So this is GMS Canada. We're a strong group of companies, as all GMS companies are. Our go-to-market is we extend and defend the in-market brands, and we lean on the centers of excellence at GMS overall to power these companies by GMS. That's who we are, and that's who we're proud to be. You know, I'm thrilled to see everybody joining in on this call today, and I'm thrilled to be here with our panelists. I'll talk a little bit more about them as I introduce them. I hope you will all be inspired by the conversation today. I know I'm very excited about the powerful women leaders of GMS that are on this call today. And really, Women's History Month is a time for us to celebrate the many accomplishments of women everywhere, not just in our company, but in our families and in our world. And it's a time for us to learn and to grow. And I cannot think of a better way for us to do this or start this journey than listen to some of the stories and perspectives of our very own women leaders at GMS. So with that, I'm really excited to briefly announce all of our panelists and let you know who they are. I'll introduce them. It's my pleasure to have you hear from, first off, and give us a wave, Tony Dasher. Tony is our VP of Talent and Inclusion and Diversity at GMS. She's got over 20 years of HR experience. Her career spanned various industries, including consulting, mining, manufacturing, and now in the construction business. You know, there's one thing Tony would like you to know about her. and that's she's a big NFL pro football fan. She has a mission. Her mission is to visit and watch a game at all 30 of the stadiums. She's not doing too bad. To date, she's been to 10, so she's well on her way. And if you know Tony, she achieves her goals, so look out the other 20 cities. She's coming. Next, a giveaway, Alicia Robertson. Alicia is our retail manager at Sleg on Vancouver Island here in Canada. She started her career in 2010 as a cashier. She soon moved into administration and finance roles in the industry before landing her current role as retail manager. You know, one thing Alicia would like you to know about her, she's a proud mother of two. Her son Brody has just joined the Canadian military, so we thank him in advance for his service. And her daughter Kendra's robotics team has just been selected to represent their hometown in Dallas this year at the World Robotics Championships. That's exciting. Tabitha Weaver, give a wave. Tabitha is the head of marketing at Ames Taping Tools. She's got over 15 years of marketing experience across various areas in the construction industry. Tabitha has developed expertise in communications, business development with businesses and consumers in the space, and especially when it comes to social media and content creation. You know, Tabitha would like you to know one thing about her. She's been a published author since the age of 9. I think that's wonderful. Welcome, Tabitha. Our final panelist is Carrie Phelps. Carrie's our Vice President of Investor Relations for GMS. She's an Atlanta native. She received her bachelor's degree from Rhodes College in Memphis and an MBA from Georgia State University. She's got more than 20 years experience in investor relations, and Carrie began her career in budgeting and finance in the energy industry before moving into home building and on to building products. Carrie's married, has 2 children, age 11 and 13, and she feels she's off in a personal taxi. You know, Carrie would like you to know one thing about her. And when I read this, I thought, my goodness, we're going to have to bubble wrap her. Carrie considers January 2nd her unlucky day. She broke her tailbone on January 2nd, 2019, and then tore, and I'm smiling. Why am I smiling? And then she tore both MCLs skiing on January 2nd the following year. And her kids, in fact, do joke that they would like to wrap her in bubble wrap on that day each year. But Carrie now takes it as a sign to slow down, following the hustle and bustle of each holiday season, and take a deep breath before entering the new year. Carrie, be careful. So I want to thank you, ladies. One, for giving us your time. You know, you've all got busy schedules and you have to choose how you use that time. And also for being willing to share your stories and be very vulnerable as you do so. And I know you have been as I've got to know you. You know, as the discussion goes on, we do welcome everybody who's signed in to submit any questions you have by using the chat feature on your screen. At the end, we will have a brief question and answer period. So that's our program. Let's start with our panel discussion. Okay. Before we begin, I want to open with a few statistics that'll give you some color around why these conversations of Women's History Month, but in fact, every day and all throughout the year are very important. Well, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, women make up 10.9% of the construction industry. So for every 10 people in a construction-related role, one of them is a woman. Deloitte's 2003 Women at Work study shared, and sadly, that 44% of women experience microaggressions in the workplace, like being interrupted and talked over in meetings is just one not favorable example. The same study also found that 97% of women do not feel they can ask for a flexible work arrangements in fear that it will affect their careers. And lastly, according to Forbes, as of 2023, women held 10.4% of the leadership positions in Fortune 500 companies. You know, reflecting on this and with these stats in mind, I'd like to kick off the conversation. I'd like to do so by learning a little bit more about our panelists and how they've been able to navigate through this climate and get to where they are today. We're going to do this in a bit of a unique way. If each of you would describe your career path and could only use one word, what would that word be and why? Tony, I'd like to start with you.
First up, Paul? Thank you, and thank you for that introduction. Honestly, Paul, when I think about my career path, as you said, over the years, the one word that I would use, or the one word that comes to mind for me, is the word journey. I would summarize my career as more of a journey than a path. I believe sometimes when we hear the word career path, most people think about something that's linear or it's something that moves from north to south, where I would describe my experience as anything but linear. To me, it's a journey. It's been an open road where you can go anywhere the road leads you. So for example, throughout the course of my career, I've taken on roles and responsibilities that have allowed me to, in some cases, move up in my careers. In other cases or instances, where I've moved lateral in my career. And there has even been times where I have switched careers. And at some points, I think people may have seen it as me taking a step back. Whereas I look at those times as opportunity for me to achieve new experiences, more growth. And so when I think of it in totality, it really for me is more of a journey than it has been a path, in retrospect. And through that journey, again, because it has taken me a variety of ways, up, down, sideways, even back in some cases, it's allowed me to fully grow, allow me to fully, achieve and honestly propel me to where I am today.
Wow, what a great answer. Journey is a fantastic word, and I think you've described it very, very well. And the short time I've known you over the last couple of years, Tony, your journey's been impressive. And in fact, I've seen you include other people in your journey and help bring them along to a different level or a different level of understanding. And you've got a lot to be proud of. Thank you for that answer. Well thought through.
Thanks,
I'd
Paul.
like to move to Tabitha. And Tabitha, if you had to describe your career in one word and tell us why, what would that be?
I'm gonna go kind of off the wall a little bit. My one word would be defiance, and I know that that's kind of historically had a negative connotation, but I'd like to kind of turn that around. I was told in a previous role that I held by one of my superiors that I was defiant because there were, several choices that had been made prior to my coming on, and I thought that the execution could have been better. And so I just kind of went through and redid some of them. Um, and we saw a lot of success with it. And just, like that as an example, kind of taking it and just standing up for myself and standing up for the decision that I made to run through something over again and just see if we could get different results, or trying it a second time or something like that, was really kind of eye-opening. And so I decided then that I wanted to kind of reframe the word defiant and maybe not just see it as like, I'm not challenging authority in a negative way. I'm challenging it in a way to like, let's rethink what we've done in the past. Maybe it's something that we can do better. And I've done that in several roles that I've held since then, and I continuously see success in it. And I challenge other women to do the same thing. Stand up for yourself and to challenge authority, and to, in a positive way, be respectful, obviously, but stand up for yourself.
Well, I think that's a great answer. And the special part of that is that you challenge others to do it. Welcoming different ideas is how we grow. And it's how we grow as a team. I use the term up here, all together better. And I suspect you've got where you've got. That defiance has served you well. And if you allow it to serve others, good for you. Great answer. I'd like to move to Alicia. Alicia, describing your career in one word and telling us why, what would that be?
Hi, Paul. My word would definitely be resilience. My career at Slag has definitely challenged me, and I've had to learn to adapt and bounce back and grow with every challenge that's been come my way. So definitely resilience is a word that I would use for my career. Even just being with the company 14 years, I've been a coworker with a lot of my people, and now I've stepped into a manager role, and I've had to learn that whole new way of dealing with my coworkers. And resilience is a great word for me.
Well, that's great. You've had a lot of change, and you're right. When you change roles and move up into a management position, part of the resiliency is taking that feedback in a very different way. And I know you to do that, Alicia, and I know you by reputation. We have met, but I know you more by reputation. So great answer, and thank you for that.
Thanks.
Carrie, you can close out this question by telling us your career in one word and how you would describe that.
Okay. My word is fortuitous. Now, that means happening by chance. I'm not trying to imply it didn't take a whole lot of hard work, because I absolutely have worked my tail off. But I put it this way, and it's similar to what Tony was saying. Nothing that I have done in my career was really planned. I made a lot of great relationships, and, coming out of college, I did not get the job that I thought that I wanted. And therefore I had to rely upon some relationships, people that I knew, to try to get a job out of college. Landed in the energy industry, like Paul said. When I moved from one job there to another, I picked up the phone, called up somebody that, I had done some work for on a project basis, said, hey, I want to move from Georgia Power to Merritt. Do you have anything? His answer was, put your notice in today, we'll find you something. I went with a lot of trust and using my own gut in a lot of my career path. Same thing when I moved into investor relations. I had a manager come to me, would you like to interview for investor relations? I immediately said, yes. What is investor relations? I had no idea what it was, but I knew that he would be an excellent manager, an excellent person to work for. He's a natural born teacher, etc. So that's why I kind of look over my career path as I never would have planned it out this way, but I've been in investor relations for over 20 years. So clearly I'm happy with how it turned out.
That's a great answer. And, it's interesting. Sometimes you choose the direction that's in front of you versus the one that you've been thinking about for a while. And it seems like that's what you've done. You're very successful. So I think that's a great answer. Hearing how you've all described your careers, I think people would be curious, I know I am, to know if you could have done one thing differently in your career, what might that have been? And I think for this one, we'll start with you, Tabitha.
So my first job out of college that was like in the marketing field was with an agency. And I had to fight to get the role there. I think it took about 6 months. I was communicating with him back and forth. I actually found out about the business because I went on a field trip in college. And I really I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I'm proud of myself for fighting to get there, but it's like once I got there, I just kind of accepted like, whew, okay, I made it. And that was it. And I took on just whatever kind of grunt work they gave me. So I filed papers for a solid 6 weeks. And then it was just kind of like, well, you guys know I have a degree in English. I could write something maybe. But I didn't really like stand up for myself very much. I just kind of like held back and didn't advocate for myself. And so I ended up just kind of scooting along, and it took me a while. And I remember interviewing for another job whenever I was there, and like because it was still an internship. Like my first 3 months were completely unpaid, so I didn't even fight to get paid whenever I got the job in the first place. But after working there for a couple of years, they actually hired me on after my internship. But after working there a couple of years, I had an interview somewhere else, and I was offered like more money than what I was making there. And I came back, and I thought that I could confide in the lady that I was working there. I thought that she was a mentor, and she told me that I wasn't worth the salary that they offered me. And that was just kind of crushing. But it was also kind of eye-opening to see, like, if I'm constantly not showing that I believe in myself, then what reason does somebody else have to believe in me? Shortly after that, I did get another job, and it did pay more, and I started moving up. But I would have really, if I could have done anything differently, I think I would have believed in myself a little sooner and really stood up for myself a little sooner than that. So,
Well, what a great answer. Thank you for that and for sharing it in such detail. Perry, same question for you. What would you have done differently, one thing in your career, and what would that be?
I think when I look back on it, I wish that I had kept in better touch with some of those people that I worked with early on in my career. First of all, I worked with some fantastic people and just super intelligent. They would probably be great mentors now if I had done a better job of actually keeping in touch. And the other piece is you just never know. We're all with GMS. It's a fantastic company. We're a great, stable company doing well. But over the years throughout my career, we're talking about a very long time. I think I'm the oldest one here on the panel. And I had companies that got bought out. I had companies that moved their corporate headquarters from one city to another. So you never know when you actually do need to call upon some of those people. And like I said, I think I could have done a better job of keeping those relationships active.
That's a good answer. And we'll come back to mentorship a little later. There's been several people say that word, and it's important, and you'll find it's one of our questions. So I think that'll be helpful. Same question for you, Alicia.
Yeah, for me, definitely looking back, I wish I would have pursued more training. I think it would have probably opened up opportunity for me a lot sooner in my career. When I invest in myself, and as we all do, you tend to be more confident, and it definitely helps. So I was a single mom, or I'm a single mom, so I can see the challenges I would have had to do that. But if I could have found a way, I would have definitely pursued more training.
Well, you are part of GMS Canada, so you hold us accountable, in your career and your development path, and make sure you're leaning on us for that training. We've got some great resources. We talk about the centers of excellence here at GMS, and we, talk about being all together better, if we power ourselves by GMS. So I know you're involved in some of that. And you know what? Speak up, advocate for yourself, and make sure you ask to have the right kind of career development, the right kind of support and training that you deserve. So thank you for that. Tony, I'd like to ask you the same question.
In terms of what would I do differently with my career, I think it leads to something that Tabitha touched on, and like you said, and I'm going to speak a little bit more about it probably later, but it's really around the ability that we have as just females, as employees, team members, is to really self-advocate for ourselves. I think Carrie mentioned it as well. I think a lot of times we, especially myself, I have a tendency to, I'm a thinker. I can kind of draw in sometimes, and sometimes that drawing in is me really processing information. And sometimes I miss opportunities where I have missed opportunities where I can kind of step forward and to really think about and really advocate for myself, really put my thoughts out there, stand up for what I believe, not be afraid of, as we say, sometimes rocking the boat. Sometimes rocking the boat is definitely necessary. And so I've missed opportunities where my position or my opinion or my thoughts could have been considered because I did not stand up and self-advocate. So I think self-advocacy is definitely a big thing that I would do differently in my career.
Great answer. Thank you very much. And I think it is, I'd like to think today it's welcomed. I don't think we're where we need to be. I think, we'll go back to your first word, which was journey. And I think we're on a journey, and we're not where we need to be in terms of welcoming defiance or self-advocacy, but we're better. And we need to get better every day. And, moving forward is welcoming that kind of question and welcoming the, what do I need and how do I get, Alicia, your training, Tony, self-advocating, in your career and what you think would be best to move it forward. These are all great examples. I'd like to drill down into that word we talked about a couple minutes ago, which is mentorship. And, you know, when we talk about mentorship, let's quote some people smarter than me. So according to Forbes, employees with workplace mentors are promoted 5 times more often than their non-mentored peers. Another study conducted by SurveyMonkey showed that mentoring minorities and women resulted in more promotion and retention rates. Those same statistics showed an increase of 15 to 38% in those areas. So when I think about all of you on this panel and the journeys you've been on, I'd like to hear what role, if any, that a mentor played in your career. And let's start with you on this one, Carrie.
Oh, okay. So early in my career, I did have a couple of opportunities to have, I'll call them formal mentors, sort of appointed, if you will, matched up. I'll be honest, those aren't the ones that were really the most helpful. It's nothing against those two people. They're great, but just that's not what helped me along in my career. They were too busy. They couldn't really dedicate the time and energy necessary. So for me, it's really been informal mentors. I mentioned my initial manager in investor relations who had zero ego, who took the role of investor relations, all the duties, and just divided them by 3. There were 3 of us in the department. You know, if I needed to be working on this particular task and that required me to be in front of the CEO, you know, at age 25, I'm there in front of the CEO talking and trying to figure things out. So, you know, I think also even today, you know, I am well into my career, but I still try to look around me, and people may not know they're my mentors, but I do actually use them as mentors. I may bounce ideas off of them, or I may just observe the way they are going about things. I observe, how do you get the full team on board for this project that I'm working on? You know, and so it's really talking and listening to all different sorts of players, and all of that can serve sort of as a mentor type role. So like I said, mine's not so formal, but still I find it extremely helpful throughout my career.
That's great. Thanks very much, Carrie. And I like the way you said the ones assigned to you didn't turn out to be your mentors. And because I think often that means, you know, it's the ones who care about you, you know, and it's the ones who care about, you know, where you're heading and what it's going to take to get there and what kind of support you need all around. That's really your mentors. And they give of themselves selflessly. So I love the way you put that. The ones assigned to me weren't necessarily their mentors. And I think you said, and the ones that are may not know they are. And that's pretty powerful stuff. So good for you. You know, Tony, why don't you talk about mentors you've had in your career and life, and how they've helped you, or how
Yeah.
they've influenced you?
So when I think about mentors or mentorships, I think about somebody that's a little bit more experienced than I am, that helps to guide me, provide direction, give coaching, give support. I also think a mentor can also be someone who they can be that mirror. So it's someone that can see something in ourselves that we don't sometimes always see. And because of that, they help to give that motivation or that push that will help us move towards our goal. So with that, when I think about mentors that have been in my life, I think about one time in particular where I was at a pivotal point in my career, and I was faced with the question of whether I should stay where I was or move into another opportunity. And I think the thing that kind of hindered me from kind of jumping into that opportunity was because I had the education to support that opportunity or to support that move. But what I was really lacking was kind of the hands-on, that job-specific experience. And so because of this, I hesitated to apply for that new opportunity. But my mentor at the time helped me to really see what I couldn't see. He, helped me to think through the skills that were transferable. He helped me to think through, but you have a passion in this space. You have the potential to succeed. So why not, why not stretch and jump, apply for that position? And because of his support, again, because of his motivation, when I think back of that, just really being that cheerleader for me, I took his advice, I took that leap, applied, and I got the job. And while I'm years past that job, it is one of the reasons why I'm in the space that I am in now. So it is how I got to the talent space. I wasn't always in the talent space in HR. And it was because of his motivation, him seeing something in me that I didn't at the time see in myself, and really providing that guidance, that meant that support, that encouragement, and that direction helped to propel me forward.
Great answer. Do you feel you're a mentor today, Tony?
I do. I do. I think kind of like Carrie said, I think I have some that are more formal, but I do think I fall into a realm a lot of times where I'm an informal mentorship. No one has actually, we've not set up any type of, hey, can you be my mentor? But I find myself sitting down with folks that are probably earlier in their careers or less experienced than myself and giving that same guidance and support that people have given me. And even some that even, in areas where maybe I didn't have that support, I try to be that support for many others, that I've come into contact with here at GMS and in other places outside of work as well, too.
Well, they're lucky to have you. Thank you for that answer and your thoughtfulness.
Thanks,
You know,
Paul.
I'm going to reach out in a different way on mentorship here. I'm thinking of, the meeting we had where we got to know each other a little better in preparation for this. Tabitha, I'm going to catch you maybe a little off guard, and I hope not. When we talked about mentors, you had a very unique opposite perspective in terms of perhaps not having mentors at the right time or if at all in certain parts, and how you turn that into a positive and what mentorship means to you today. I'd love for you to tell that story and give some detail on that for everybody to hear. I think that would be really valuable.
Yes, I touched on it a little bit when I was talking about advocating for myself earlier. In the previous role, I had thought that there was someone who was in a mentorship role for me. And when I was told that I wasn't really worth what someone else had seen my value, that was really kind of, I said already, it was eye-opening and kind of put me in a position where I was afraid to approach somebody as a mentor, or afraid to interact with them as a mentor. And also, like, if I am looking to expand my career and I'm in a role where maybe there's no way for me to grow in that particular space or that position or something, I was also afraid to ask questions about how to advance my career out of fear of losing that job, or like giving some sort of hint that like I may be looking for something else. But out of that fear, it really drove me to want to be that for any other employees that I would have in the future. And so at one of my previous roles, I did have a lot of interns who worked for me, and it was really my goal to kind of allow them the possibility to feel comfortable coming to me to talk to me about anything. They could come and talk to me about what they had for dinner last night or what they want to do with their life. And I started asking questions, and some of them would give me a really hard time about this. And I started a Friday questions series, and I would ask them questions about like, what are some goals that you have in your life? Not even career related. What are some things? I just really want to make sure that I'm leading good people. I want to make sure that they know that I'm invested in their lives, their future. If I'm supporting them both at work and I'm supporting them, in whatever their personal life is too. And just like I genuinely care about them as people. So not having a mentor kind of led me to wanting to be one. And there's actually a young woman who is, she's in college right now, and she calls me all the time. She was one of my interns when she was in high school. She's about to graduate from UGA this year. But she reaches out to me all the time with questions. I'll be at her graduation when she walks across the stage, and I enjoy being that for people now. And also just making sure that even if somebody is working for me and they're doing an excellent job, but if there's nowhere for them to move up, like if I'm the next position, where am I going? Just knowing that I'm here for them and I support them, even if it means moving away from where they are now, if it means looking for another role, like I would love to help them grow that way. So just kind of creating an open environment, you know?
Oh, that's great. You know what, I was moved, when you brought that up in our earlier conversation. I've been blessed with great mentors in my life, and they've made a permanent and positive difference in my life personally and in my business. And when we were throwing around the comments on mentoring, you said, well, I didn't have any. And my whole body language came inward, I thought, oh no. And then you turned it into, well, how can I be one? And how can I be better for people and isn't that what we're supposed to do? Aren't we supposed to be a better version of ourselves and a better version of some that we've been exposed to and learn from that? And I thought your story brought that out right. So you were put on the spot, or I don't think you knew I was going to ask you that today.
Yeah.
But you answered it as beautifully as I knew you would. So thank you very much for that. You're a great leader to offer of yourself that way, and you should know that. So when we look at these, moving on to the next one, we look at these, comments and antidotes on mentorship and the value of having good mentors. I'd imagine that, or I would hope that your mentors have equipped you with tools for self-advocacy. And Tony, you talked about self-advocacy, and it's important. And it's an important part that is welcome more today than before, and still not enough. And so it's part of, and I'll keep coming back to your word, journey. And when we look at that, how you promote yourself, how you speak up for yourself. A study by Indeed last year revealed 73% of women surveyed express fear over how women are perceived when self-promoting, and given fear of backlash perception. Sad as that is, I'd really love to hear a couple of thoughts around how women can embrace self-advocacy, in your opinion, and ways that you have practiced self-advocacy throughout your career. And I'm going to bounce right back to you, Tabitha.
So I saw someone just said in the chat that kind of touched on this, asking for some good advice on how to overcome our fears in the workplace, like fear that makes you feel like you can't move up, or suggest needed changes and things like that. And I think this really kind of wraps into this question. I think sometimes you feel like standing up for yourself is kind of imposing, or that you might not be taken seriously, or might not be listened to. But just knowing that if you're standing up for yourself, you're doing the right thing for you. And getting to a place where you understand that whatever the outcome is, you've done the right thing, is really important. So if you're willing to stand up for yourself, and you're willing to advocate for either what's right for the business, or what's right for yourself, or what's right for your team, or something like that, then you've done the right thing. And whatever the outcome is for that, I just understanding that you have done the right thing and you're coming from a good place, and you're looking to support someone else, or to support the business, or support yourself. I think that's the biggest part, just getting to a place where you understand that, and you're okay with whatever the reaction is, or whatever the consequence is. Knowing that it's not a reflection of you, but that it's a reflection of either the other person, or, a lot of times you'll be pleasantly surprised with the outcome. So just getting into that mind space of understanding that you are practicing integrity, that you are standing up for someone, you're standing up for what's right, and being okay with the outcome of it is important.
Fantastic. So if I wrap this all up in the way you've just framed it, it's the eloquent way that you were defiant.
Yeah, the positive spin on the word defiance. Yeah.
Right. Good for you. Tony, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I said that self-advocacy was one of the things that I would do differently in my career. And it's funny, when I used to think about self-advocacy, I used to think about something that had to be loud. It was something that was big and heavy. And when you advocated for yourself, you were kicking down doors and making a big, fuss or scream about things. And what I've grown to understand and matured, and as I've matured in my career, what I think when I think of self-advocacy, I think about just recognizing and understanding and knowing your own value and your own worth. And I
Mm.
think that, if you recognize, and it can be as subtle as that, right? It doesn't have to always be an ask for something or a kick, like I said, a kick in the door about something. It's really knowing your value and knowing what you're worth. And, so how have I practiced that? It's really about me knowing my strengths and leaning into those things. It's about understanding my development opportunities and allowing myself the room to grow and allowing both my strengths and those development opportunities to carry me forward. And, by me knowing those things, I know what I need to go for, where I fit in. I know when is the right time to speak up, when is the time to step back and to let things go. And really, it's really for me, my learning experience over the years has really been around knowing my worth and knowing my value as an employee, as a mother, as a wife, in all stages of life.
I love that. And you're right. If you know your value and worth, then speaking up is just in support of that. And it shouldn't be anything to fear. And you don't always have to speak or kick in a door, as you say. If you know your worth, then you promote yourself that way. And one of the things that stuck with me in formal leadership training I was lucky enough to get in the emergency services was knowing when to lead, follow, or get out of the way, because all of them are leading. And if you have your self-worth, you have the confidence. And
Yes.
you have the confidence to know that it's okay just to get out of the way on some of the topics and admire the leadership around you and what's happening around you with your teams. And I think the way you frame that,
It
it
becomes
brought me,
your
it brought me back.
it becomes your it's become my North Star in a way. It makes it's if I'm following if I know my value, if I know my worth, I recognize that, then I know exactly like you said, I know when it's time to speak up and when it's time to maybe take a back seat and let someone else lead. So it's definitely been a compass for me.
Good for you. You reminded me of that lead, follow, get out of the way, which always impacted me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Alicia, let's get your thoughts around this topic, if you would, please.
Yes, just echoing these wonderful answers, I think women should definitely speak up in situations where their values or their boundaries are challenged. And that's a muscle you've really got to learn how to flex. So for me, learning to do that in my personal life and just really understanding that, I was able to bring it into my career as well. Just constantly working that muscle of knowing my value and knowing my boundaries. Um, and then one of the things that as a woman in this industry, I've definitely had to look at myself a lot for even just that unconscious bias and gender stereotypes. I look at myself so I can look at my team and make sure that we're all on that right path. So those were great answers too. And yeah, it just comes down to your self-worth and just understanding your values and your boundaries.
Well, thank you. And good for you. When we talked about this ahead of time, I think there was some fear of who gets to go last. Like, what do I say if it's already all been said? But you've all articulated the point in a very personal and different way on every question. And so I think that that concern we had is certainly not real. You're genuine, and I'll talk more about that at the end, but thank you for that. So we've got a closeout question, and then we're going to move to the questions that have come in the chat. We're running a little bit ahead of time, but I think it's because you've all articulated yourself so clearly and been so thoughtful in your preparation and your answers. So closing us out, we have a two-part question. The first part is we'd like you to share with us how you've all been able to navigate the many hats that you wear as women: mothers, daughters, partners, sisters, leaders, friends, and more. And with that, the second part would be, what advice would you give the next generation of women as they prepare to enter the workforce and embark on their own journeys? And for that, we're going right back to you, Alicia.
Great. So I've learned obviously to set boundaries, prioritizing and managing my time. I know when I need to ask for help and I ask for help. Having good open communication has definitely helped me stay connected in my personal life, with my family, my friends, also with my colleagues. And I would advise the next generation of women to see failure definitely as a chance to learn. That's been a big one for me. It's not a roadblock. And don't be afraid to take risks and aim high. Challenges will make you stronger, and stick to your values and stand up for what you believe in and support other women along the way.
Good for you. Thank you for that. Same two-part question in terms of how you've been able to navigate the many hats you wear as women, and then, of course, the advice you would give to the next generation. That question goes over to you, Tabitha.
Just about everybody on my team would probably laugh at this. I have so many calendars. I think I have probably 6 calendars in my office, and I write down everything. I am a single mom. I've got 2 kids. I've got to manage their schedules. I've got to manage mine. I'm responsible for merchandising and marketing. And, with marketing comes a lot of deadlines. And so making sure that all of those are met, and really just practicing an overwhelming amount of time management, has been, how I navigate mostly work and motherhood. But I think all of it's kind of tied together, and just wanting to, practicing integrity, wanting to do the right thing and support other people. And so, just making sure to incorporate that. And then as far as advice for others, just don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And also I feel it's really important. Don't be afraid to give credit where it's due. It's really important to build up other people. And, in some of the past work experience that I've had, I could have put in like hours of work, and then it was just credited to a team. I'm very big on giving credit where it's due. If somebody has a great idea, I want to highlight that. So that's kind of to piggyback on what Alicia said about building other women up, just building others up in general. Anybody on your team, anybody who, even if they're not on your team, if they've got a great idea, make sure that they're given credit for it, because you never know who's not willing to, or who's not comfortable self-advocating or standing up for themselves. And this is giving them the opportunity to have a light shine on them. So.
I got a feeling people are lucky to work with and for all of you. And I think you articulate that very well, Tabitha. And I know everybody on this panel is the same. And it's come out in the pre-work on this, and it's come out today so far. So thank you. Carrie, over to you for the same question.
Okay. Like so many other women out there, including everybody on this panel, as you said at the beginning, Paul, I'm a taxi driver for my 2 middle schoolers, 11 and 13. They're super active in sports. They, of course, need their doctor's appointments, their dentist appointments. My husband needs me to tell him where he's supposed to be. And I love him dearly. But, I'm in charge of the family calendar, right? So are so many other women out there. We've got elderly relatives that we're dealing with and trying to place in certain, where they need to be. And there's always things outside of work that are pulling, right? So, really, I have to be flexible, and not every job lends itself to this, but I do have to at times work late at night, because at 8 a.m. I got to get my kid to a doctor's appointment. I've got to be putting my all into both work and home to make it all work. And I travel. I have a lot of evening commitments for work. And again, it's trying to remain flexible and saying, okay, I have this much work to do, and I'm going to fit it in into whatever hours I need to fit it in. Now, having said all of that, my piece of advice: as women, we are told you can have it all. Huh. Well, I'm gonna say we can have it all. We cannot do it all by ourselves. You have to have your villages. I've got my villages at home, and neighbors, family, whatever. I've got my villages at work. that that I have to lean on. And I think all of us need to build those villages and really rely on them. Surround yourself with people you respect who also respect yourself, respect you as well. And it will make your life so much easier and so much better and more enjoyable. It's better for the company. It's better for you all around.
Wow. You can have it all, but you can't do it all.
By yourself.
What a wonderful comment. But what a wonderful comment. You know my belief in all together better. And you have better figure out who to get around you in that all. If you're going to be together better, and how you pick those villages really, really matter. And that's powerful. And you should know I'm in my 39th year of marriage. So my wife doesn't tell me just where to be. She's told me where to go quite often. So, and I think I probably deserved it. But no, that's not to make light of your answer. You're like powerful stuff, and you can have it all, but you can't do it all alone. So good for you. Tony, you want to take this question for us and give us your perspective on it, please?
Absolutely. So I think when I think about how have I been able to navigate the many hats that I wear, and I wear just like all of the other ladies with me here, I wear quite a few. I think for me, it's a couple things. One, the first thing is that carries me through is my faith. So in times where I may be feeling a bit overwhelmed or I need comfort, I really lean into my faith, and that's a big source of just relief for me, comfort again, and just helps to carry me through. This is similar to something Carrie said, but I also have a saying that I apply. It's not my saying, but a saying that applies. And I have to tell myself this all the time. It's all or something. I think being a mom and a wife and an employee and the oldest child and, so the oldest sibling and everything under the sun, a lot comes my way. And so I can easily, and just my nature, I can easily burn out quickly if I let it happen, because I feel like I have to do it all. So with this motto, it's all or something, I try to avoid getting into the habit of it being it's all or nothing. So this is, that way there's no guilt, I can stop, that guilt won't set in, around having to manage it all. So me thinking more along the lines of it's all or something, even days where I don't feel like I've shown up and I've not been my best, or my kid is acting out, or I want to, my husband has asked me too many times where he needs to be. I'm able to remind myself that I've done something and that something is better than nothing. So that helps to kind of keep me grounded as I think about the many hats that I wear. And if I had to leave something for the next generation of women coming up, I would say it would be, don't be afraid to take more chances. So whatever that may look like in your career, don't be afraid to take those chances. So whether it's putting yourself out there, sharing ideas that are outside the box, raising your hand for roles that you may not think you are a fit for or may not be ready for, or just whatever it is, just realizing that you do have a lot to offer someone something, and not be afraid to take those chances. Again, I think sometimes, not all, but studies show that as women, we tend to sit back a little bit at times. And so I would say, as women and as future women leaders, not be afraid to take those chances.
Wow. You can't do everything, do something.
Yes.
That's I'm getting a lot of notes here that are powerful, and I'm not surprised. You're quite a group, and again, I'll have more to say about you all as I close out this event today. But thank you all for your answers, very much so. I believe this has been just a wonderful conversation. It certainly has for me to see you all express yourself and with the kind of honesty that you have. And again, more to say on that in the closing comments. I would ask everybody on this call to join me in your mind and in your heart in thanking each one of these leaders. They're being open and their willingness to share their vulnerability. And I've taken notes and absorbed a lot, and I hope you took something valuable from this conversation. And there's more to come. We're going to head to the questions in a moment. There are questions in the queue, and we'll have this panel grab those questions and answer them certainly as best they can, which I know will be very well done. And so I hope you did take something from this conversation. I certainly know that I did. And I see Joanna popping on the screen, and I welcome you. You've been a backbone in behind this program. So what I'm going to do, Joanna, is hand it over to you, and I'll ask you to pull the questions from our audience and pose them back to the panel. And I'll ask the panel, jump up and grab them as you see fit. And I think will be better for your answers. So over to you, Joanna.
Amazing. Thank you, Paul. I will start reading some of our questions, and this is for anybody on the panel. Any of you can answer. We have a question that says, excuse me, what obstacles have you had to overcome to achieve your goals professionally, and how did you do it? And so any of you can answer.
I mean, I'll start off. Hopefully somebody else will jump in. Early on in my career, you know, I started to see job postings that I might be interested in within my own company that, you know, had some training requirements, things like that, that, you know, I didn't yet have. It said MBA preferred. And I mentioned, you know, some of my mentors over the years. One of them was a manager who very much took me under her wing, and she and I got through my MBA program, you know, at night, supported by the company, supported by my manager. And so, number one, I would say, you know, look for ways to position yourself ahead so that you can move ahead. So, you know, that doesn't have to be training. It can also, you know, it can just be working on certain projects, doing certain things, taking that step to do that. But also, I would say, don't be afraid of change. Some obstacle, you know, a very big obstacle that I had at one point in time was, I'll be flat out honest, I worked for some not very nice people at one point in time. You know, I think Tabitha may have experienced that as well, apparently. But you know, there were some people that were not supportive. They really created quite a toxic environment. And, you know, gosh, I hope you don't have that at all at GMS. But, you know, if you do, you know, don't be afraid of change, because things actually, you know, when I was willing to actually get out of that situation and change, whether it's changing departments or roles or whatever, things got much better for me and you know, probably for the company for that matter, just, you know, in general. So I would say embrace change and know that it is not a bad thing. It's not a bad word.
Great. Anybody else want to build on that?
I'll actually, sorry, Paul. I'll actually jump in on that one. For me, the obstacles that I've had to overcome were actually more, not so much in the workplace, more than they were more familial or cultural obstacles. So growing up, I grew up in a family that is originally from the island of Jamaica. And one of, you know, the things that I heard growing up as a child was always around the notion of you should be seen and not heard. And I think culturally, I took that into my profession at one point, and it kind of goes back to the self-advocacy portion, and even around my piece around not being afraid to take chances. I've had to reshape and reshift my thinking around what that means to be seen and not heard. And to use that and say professionally, there are times where I do need to be seen and I should be heard, and not letting what I've kind of been told and, you know, that what I've grown up with all my life kind of control me professionally, if you will. And so for me, when I think about that professionally, that was an obstacle for a long time, because for a long time I sat back and kind of let whatever came come, versus sticking my, you know, going out for it, putting my name in the hat for things. And now, like I said, as I've grown and matured just in life and in my career, I realized that I had to overcome that and, you know, change that way of thinking that has always been ingrained in me from a young child, and do things differently professionally.
Wonderful. Let's go to the next question, Joanna. Thank you both, by the way, for contributing to that.
Absolutely. So actually, this one is for Tony. Is this why you focus on women in GMS by rolling out programs to help us ladies grow as individuals in our careers, such as Ignite and Path Builders?
That's an awesome question. So part of our strategy, yes. So a lot of the programs that we do have now as GMS is focused on all of our employees, right? We want to have options for all of our employees, whether you are female, male, no matter gender, race, whatever it is. But yes, we do have programs like Path Builders. We do have programs like our Ready Now Talent program that we have specifically designed for women or for people of color, to give that visibility, to help build that leadership, to help, particularly in our Path Builders program, to help kind of, as we think about our construction industry, which is typically a male-dominated industry, we want to make sure that we have a path to help to continue to grow our women leaders and grow our women employees so that they too can continue to grow in this space, in this industry, and up the ranks in their leadership as well. So yes. That is a part of our strategy to make sure that we are growing and building our women leaders.
Excellent. Next question, Joanna.
Next question is something anyone can answer. If you could have dinner with any woman, past or present, who would it be and why?
While you're all thinking about that, I share with you that the two greatest mentors in my life was first and foremost my mother. I always wanted to be someone she'd be proud of by the values that she demonstrated. And the second person was a lady by the name of Bonnie Schneer-Monsick, who owned the company that I spent 24 years at, and she divested of the company to private equity many years ago. But I share with all of you that when I have a very tough thing that I need to think about and make a decision on, I say, what would Bonnie do? And I'm fortunate enough to be able to call her. I'm not able to call my mother, and it would be my mother that I'd like to have one more dinner with. I feel there's some things unsaid. So over to you.
I would pick this panel because I've learned so much from these women, and they're very inspiring, strong, and wonderful. So I would love to sit down for dinner with you ladies. And my mother as well. I would speak to that too, Paul. She's passed as well, and I have a million questions for her. So
Anybody else?
I mean,
All right.
I could throw one out. I don't know. I would have to spend more time to really come up with like who that one person is. But I've been watching The Crown, and and Margaret Thatcher to me was fascinating as the first female prime minister. So, someone like that, I don't know if she's the one, but someone that was first to do something as a female, I think would be fascinating to know, sort of how they navigated all of the enormous obstacles I'm sure that they face. And so, like I said, that again, it's because I was watching The Crown last night. That's what makes me think of it.
Well, I think it qualifies for a good question if it's provoking this much deep thought. So, Joanna, let's go to the next one. And thank you for that question, whoever put that in the chat.
Absolutely. The next question: with busy schedules, life, kids, how do you wind down? What do you do to relax and for self-care?
Hey, I'll take this one. I go to baseball games. I'm a sucker for Major League Baseball. I am a huge Braves fan. I will travel to go to games. My birthday is April 1st. I celebrate opening day every year. That's today, by the way. There's no Braves game today. It's tomorrow. But I am a huge baseball fan. So Tony, like, you want to go to see all of the NFL stadiums? I would love to go see every MLB stadium. So that is one of my goals.
Love it. For me, I would say, can you say spa day? That is what one of the things that I love to do to wind down is go to the spa or I mean, but I know we don't do that every day, but for me, just taking a time away, I try to steal a few moments away. My son always says, "Are you in the closet again?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm in my closet." I'll just go in my closet and sit on the floor and literally just chill out for a few minutes, whether that's, meditating, whether that's scrolling the phone, whatever it is, it just gives me an opportunity to just do something for myself for just a few minutes a day.
Wow.
So for me, a lot of times going home to when my kids were younger, especially just that drive from work to home or from home to work, it was blasting my favorite song on the way either home or to work, and that really just made me give me that time to just have a moment before I had to either be professional or mom. So I still do that every once in a while, put on my favorite song and turn it up real loud.
So I picked up tennis during COVID. Never played before, but now have just a wonderful group of ladies that we play. It's actually the most disappointing thing to me when I have to travel for work is either missing tennis practice or one of my kids' games. I'm terrible at it. But if I feel like it, I can hit that ball out of the park. I realize you're not supposed to do that in tennis, but sometimes it's a good release, and hopefully I'll get better if I keep playing. We'll see, but it's a nice release. It's a nice both social and athletic venture, I guess.
Wonderful. Next question, please.
All right. All right. Our next question is, what is the hardest part of being a woman at GMS? And I would maybe even streamline it to a woman in construction.
Hmm.
I would say, as a woman in construction, just having the automatic assumption be that you might not know what you're talking about because you're a woman and clearly you haven't been on the job. My experience has been both as a subcontractor. I worked in business development, and actually had to go out on job sites, had to participate in OSHA training, had to do all kinds of things that qualified me to be on a job site. So I do understand what I'm talking about. And it's frustrating sometimes to just have that assumption automatically be that you don't understand or you don't know about the end user. In fact, that kind of ties into my experience with social media and managing the relationship of a business with the end user of a product that you're selling or a service that you're providing. That's almost like being in a store. I know Ames, we've got a lot of store managers. GMS, we have a lot of yards, and there are women everywhere in all of these places, and you're dealing with the end user on a regular basis, and you understand what you're talking about. And I'm sure that's something that has happened to every single one of you. And it's just like, again, kind of ties back to knowing your worth and knowing and understanding your experience and being able to speak to that, and not being afraid to correct somebody either. That's something that I've done several times. I've had a few, well, actually, conversations. So
Anyone else on this? If not, we can move to the next question, Joanna.
Absolutely. This is actually our last one. What advice would you give to someone who is under a management role and has women leaders on their team to ensure they're being equal and inclusive in today's world?
I don't know if this is from a male who's asking the question or a female, but just from my perspective, I don't need any kind of special treatment because I'm a female. So
Tabitha, I think you might be on mute.
can you hear me now?
I hear it.
Okay, I was just saying, there's no special treatment needed. That's kind of my opinion. If you're looking at a group of men and women, there should be no exception. There should be no special or preferential treatment at all. We're just asking to sit at the same table and be understood in the same way and not be interrupted in a meeting, or, not be assumed to not have experience or something. Just take the time and listen to any of the females that are in the room the same way you would any male that's in the room.
And I would say, to piggyback on what Tabitha is saying, to that end, if you notice that maybe your female leaders are not as active, not as participatory, not as engaged, maybe, invite, or maybe not speaking up as much, invite them into the conversation. So sometimes you may have to say things like, hey, let's hear from Tony on this, or let's see, Carrie, do you have anything else you'd like to add? So and you would do this for any coworkers that you see, whether it's male or female, whether they're, if they're not opening up as much as others, or not, you want to pause to recognize that, and, invite them in. And then maybe there's some offline conversations, that you could have with that person, just to ensure that, they're good, they're comfortable. But sometimes just even inviting a person's thoughts into a conversation helps with that as well.
Wonderful. Carrie, why don't you give us your thoughts on this as well? I think we'd like to hear from all of you.
I don't know, Paul. I had sort of moved on to, because I know Joanna had said this was the last question. This I was looking at the other, because I know we have a couple more that I wanted to make sure we got to. I agree totally with Tabitha, though. I mean, there should be no difference. It's treat everyone with respect. And you want to, if you're a manager, you want your employees to receive the resources, the training, the support, everything they need, male or female. So I unfortunately, I'm just echoing Tabitha, but that's how I view it.
Agree. Alicia, do you have any thoughts? And there are more questions now, I think, Joanna. Great.
Yes, we do.
I agree with what all the ladies said. I would just treat us the same.
Fair enough. Good for you. Joanna, what's the next question?
Looking back over your lives, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self that would best serve her in the future?
Maybe don't skip so many college classes. No, in all seriousness, it took me like 8 years to graduate with my bachelor's degree because I discovered road trips. So, just really focusing would, and doesn't even have anything to do with just career, but like in general, just focus and stop wandering around and just get focused.
Self-love for me, I would have taught myself more about how to love myself, and then I would have been coming from a place that was from self-love, and I think I would have been a lot easier for me.
Along those same lines, I would say just have, approach anything with confidence, because I don't know that I always had the confidence that I should have approaching school, work, job, anything, but just approach it with confidence.
And I think I would say, if I could tell my 15-year-old self anything, it would be chill out. I think I stressed so much about what I was going to do, where was I going to be, how was I going to do it, was I going to love what I'm doing, why do all my friends know what they're going to do already and I have no idea. And I realized that I fell, and I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. So if I could go back 15 years ago, I would tell myself to chill out. It'll be okay.
Thank you. Joanna?
There is one more. And it may be a Tony question. Does GMS have a mentorship program, or are we planning to? I would love to participate in a program like that.
We do not have a formal internship program right now as a complete or enterprise. There could be something going on in some of the different divisions that we are unaware of, but as a full enterprise, we do not currently have a mentorship program. It is something that has come up, a couple of things have come up in a number of areas. And so it is something, along with a few other ideas, that we are looking at for the future. So it may not be a typical mentorship program, but something that will give us a lot of the benefits of a mentorship program, and have some of the same, again, some of the same outcomes and benefits, but may look a little bit different than what you may be used to from a traditional mentorship program. One of the things that we've learned about traditional mentorship programs, that some people have success, some people don't always love them because they don't feel they're not organic, and people tend to get the most out of some of the organic ones. So I think we are looking, but we do know that there is a place for some sort of mentorship. So while we don't have a traditional formal program, we are looking at other ideas that will give us that same type of impact in the future. So stay tuned, more to come.
And Tony, if I could add, everybody at GMS, at least with me, has been super nice. Reach out, ask somebody to lunch, ask somebody, hey, even if it's like, if they're across the country, but you want to do a Zoom call just to pick their brain about something. While Tony and her crew are, maybe working out a more formalized mentorship program, there are mentors available out there to you. And people would be, everybody I've encountered at GMS has been so helpful for me learning the business, for me, and I know they would be helpful to you as well.
Love that, Carrie.
Any other thoughts around that topic, or before I cut off the questions? I think we're through all the questions, Joanne, and I'd be humble and grateful to close this with some thoughts. Well, we'll move to that. When Tony and Joanna reached out and asked me if I would participate in this, I was two H's. I was honored for the invitation, and I was humbled by it. There are a lot of great people at GMS. Carrie, I concur. I've been here 2 years. One of the common things when people ask me, how's it going over there? What do you think of that new job? I start with, I just continue to meet great people. And I finish with, I wish I found the place sooner. I just wish I got here sooner. You're all a great example of why that is. You're powerful in your leadership. You're thoughtful in your response. You're caring in your interactions with people. And I'm better for having known some of you for this short time in the 2 years and meeting some of you through this process. I wish this format that we're in today would allow what you deserve, which is a loud applause and standing ovation. This format doesn't allow for that, but I think I can speak for the many people that are tuned in here, that's what you would have right now. You would have standing ovation. You were all nothing short of incredible. Your trust here, not knowing who is out there on this call, but your trust and sincerity in allowing vulnerability and being very honest and vulnerable about your experiences and how they've changed you, helped you, or maybe even scarred you. You've had to move past that to be changed and helped. I think that's to be applauded. And that's why I keep coming back to the standing ovation. But if I had one thing to say to the group that's dialed in here today, it's please do not make this an event. I'm going to go back to Tony's word. Make this a journey. Start and or continue this conversation. Approach not just these fine women leaders at GMS, but the many women leaders we have at GMS who make a permanent and positive impact, not only on the business, but on the people they interact with every day. I could talk about the fellas at GMS, but I'm not going to, because this is Women's History Month. And our fine leaders here and our women leaders here have demonstrated that they've got a lot to give. So make this journey about them. Start and or continue a conversation. To your point, Carrie, even if it's calling across the country. If you are impressed, you are right to be impressed. So draw on that. I am finishing this today with the same word I just said. I am humbled by the quality of people that you are and what you have to give, and I'm grateful And I hope I speak for everybody that you're willing to give the way you do. And then I'm in awe of everything you carry and everything you do, and your ability to balance it all and manage it all and not do it all, but do some, you know, and have everything, but with some help, you know, in quoting a couple of you. So we're a few minutes early, but I know that I'm not done with this today. I'll be reflecting on this for the rest of the day, if not well beyond that. So Tabitha, Alicia, Joanna is the backbone of this, Tony, Carrie, thank you very much, certainly for who you are and for all you do. You demonstrated today one of my strong beliefs that we are better than the sum of our parts, and we are all together better when we recognize that. And you're a great example of us being all together better. So with that, we'll close out today, and I will thank you all very much for everything.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, guys.